Welcome, Smyth Performance Ute Builders. This video is going to be about airbags, specifically the Jetta and Audi kits. So this will cover Mark 4 and Mark 5 Jettas and the Audi. The challenge we have on these four-door sedans is that there is a side curtain airbag that runs along the top edge, the inside edge of the roof, and cutting the roof, that airbag is now not going to fit. So you got to take that airbag out. Let me start with a disclaimer. Messing with airbags can be a tricky business, both legally and physically. In the airbags, there's a charged cylinder that can cause you significant injury if you set that thing off or you try to drill into it or cut it or something along those lines. So first off, this part of the side curtain airbags, do not try to drill or cut into it. This is charged, high pressure. Don't alter this part of the airbag. Second piece to safety is unhook your battery and discharge any latent electrons in there before you start unplugging and messing with the wiring on your airbag. Simply take off your positive and negative body cables from the battery and touch them together. Give it 10 seconds or so, and that'll dissipate any capacitors that are holding a little bit of electricity in them. Legally, it's a little bit of an issue too. As a shop, you can't alter airbags for a customer. So this has to be something that's done by the customer themselves. So if you're doing this at home, that's what this is intended for. Be safe, be careful. You are responsible for the work you do to your own car. Now that we made the lawyers happy, let's get into our different options for dealing with the airbag. The first step in dealing with the airbag is you got two different options on the airbags. Leave them in place and cut them, and then we'll deal with the wiring issue later. Or you can electrically unplug it and then unbolt the whole thing and take it off. It's not a huge difference between the two of them. If you're taking your headliner out anyway, it's pretty easy to take the bolts out and just take that whole airbag out. And it does extend from the A pillar up along the roof line, across the top of the B pillar, and all the way down the C pillar. And in the C pillar is where the charge canisters are. So if you're looking for them and trying to figure out where is my airbag charge cylinder, it's in that C pillar. Okay, so you can just cut them. For example, this one is just cut right along when I did the roof cut. The fabric of the actual bag itself, pretty easy. You can get it with a scissors, a sharp knife, or just let your saw do it. But inside there is a steel tube. That's about what it looks like. So you'll have to saw that bit if you're gonna cut them. I would recommend that the first thing you do when you wheel the car into whatever location you're gonna work on it, whether it's the shop or the driveway or wherever in your garage, is unhook that battery, discharge it, not the battery, discharge the car, not the battery, and then unplug the airbags before you even start cutting. Okay, so that's physically what you're gonna do with the airbag. Now, electronically, what are you gonna do with the airbag? Well, there's kind of four options. One is just to leave it and deal with having an airbag light in the dash. It's a little bit hillbilly, and I prefer not to go that option, but you can do that, or you can leave it so that you can address it later. So option one, just leave them and deal with the light in the dash. You probably have a check engine light at some point anyway, and there's a whole lot of VWs out there with the check engine light on. But we're gonna go into some other options of varying degrees of difficulty to get rid of that light and have the car think that there's an airbag or tell the car that there is no longer an airbag there. The four ways to deal with it. The first is just deal with the light. Okay, the rest of the airbags will still activate if needed when the accelerometers reach whatever limit it is that tells them to fire off. Number two is to go in using a program like VCDS and tell the car that those airbags are no longer installed, basically you're deactivating those airbags. Okay, and we're talking about side curtain airbags only, not the seat airbags and not the front impact airbags. Okay, you can put a resistor in them so that the car just thinks it's still there, or you can actually leave the canister in, plugged in, and the car will think that there's an airbag there. So you could cut this tube beyond this, right? Not the darker piece of it here, but out here where it's an empty tube. And if you wanted to, you could take this clamp off and slide that all the way off, and you'll be able to see where it's hollow and it's not a charge, right? Remember, don't cut into this over here. So you can use these two tabs and you can bolt it in either under the floor just to keep it from rattling around, or you can bolt it in inside the fender well. So after you've built the aluminum bed, before you put the fiberglass on, you can put this either to the steel structure that still remains or onto the aluminum behind the fender well where you won't see the bolt sticking through. So those two tabs right there and right here would be good places to bolt that securely and leave the wiring plugged in. Okay, so that's the pigtail that comes from the car's harness. So you just bolt that in. Nothing wrong with that. That works. Okay, so the second, or I'm sorry, now we're on the third option, is to actually put a resistor in so that the car thinks that there's an airbag there still. Right? If you don't have access to VCDS, or you don't want to leave this charge canister somewhere in the back of the car, you can do a resistor. So there's two different ways to do a resistor on these. So if you decide to go the resistor route, there's two different ways you can do that. You can order from eBay. There's a guy in Europe somewhere that will send you these cool little resistors, and he sends you a 6-pack of them. It's in the neighborhood of 15 bucks. And they are the correct ohms, or the correct resistance, and they plug right in to the little connector that goes onto the charge back, the charge canister. So there's a close-up of one of those little resistors. That's from the eBay. And that little resistor plugs right in there. Right in there like that. If you wanted to, you could put a little goop on there just to waterproof it a little bit. You could reroute that wiring so it's in the back of the cab. You could tuck it up under the bed. You could tape it up inside the fender well somewhere so it's not dragging around on the bottom. That's probably the easiest. So here's a charge canister from the airbag, and we want to unhook the wiring harness that goes to the car. Again, I made sure that the battery is unhooked and the electricity is dissipated from the car's harness. So now I'm ready to go ahead and unhook this. You have to flip that flapper up, and then you'll be able to reach this little keeper here, which you're going to pull down and pull out. So that's the little keeper I'm hitting with my finger to pull that out. So now it's unhooked from the car, but now I need this little pigtail loose so I can plug the resistor in here. So how do you unplug this? You take a small screwdriver or a pick and work in this little keeper to flip it up, and it'll just pop out, something like that. Okay, and now this plug will slide out of the charge canister. Sometimes they're a little bit tricky, and you may have to stick a screwdriver in here and lever it out a little bit. Okay, so there's the connector there. One last tricky bit is to get this off of this metal retainer. There is a keeper in here, right there, that you can either get here, or sometimes it works best to push in this way with a small pick. Basically, we're gonna push that keeper in that direction and then slide this yellow connector off to my left as we're looking at it. So I'm gonna push that up with the screwdriver and give it a little. Let's try that again. Now that you have that connector off, is the 2.2 ohm, and we're gonna stick it in those two holes right there. That, plug it in, snap your little keeper in, hold up the flap, plug the car's harness back in, and now you have that little resistor in. I would suggest maybe putting a finger from a rubber glove, or maybe siliconing over, or at least some electrical tape, something to seal that up a little bit and help retain that from sliding in and out. Another option for resistors is to buy a pack of 2.2 ohm resistors. I got these off of Amazon, came in a bag. I think there's 12. It was 10 bucks. You really only need 2 of them if you're building one car. So that 2 ohm resistor off of Amazon or Radio Shack or whatever electrical supply you want to get it from, you could solder that right to the wires. So you could take this pigtail right where it comes through the rear wall of the cab, so you're keeping it inside the cab for weatherproofing. You could solder this up right onto those 2 wires, put that resistor right across those 2 wires, maybe put a little bit of a U on it, maybe put a little bit of shrink tubing on it, and that will give you the correct resistance that then the car thinks there is a airbag still in it. The last technique is to use VCDS. So for that, we're gonna have to get into the car. So VCDS, if you're not familiar, is a program that you load on your laptop, comes with a cable. The company that makes the software is called Rostec, and it's a great system. If you are gonna do any maintenance on your VW and you're gonna keep it for a while, or Audi, I recommend buying VCDS, particularly if you have a diesel. If you're gonna do timing, if you're going to service your automatic transmission, there's a couple other routine maintenance things that VCDS or a similar program is the only way to do it. Now, depending on the license that you buy for the software, whether you buy it just on one VIN or if you want to buy the multiple VIN, there's some different variations that you'll find on the Rostec website. So enough plug about Rostec VCDS. 300 bucks sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but I'll tell you, a dealership or just about any shop is gonna charge you $125 just to hook your car up to their computer. Just to hook it up, not to do any analysis or anything. It's 125 bucks just to hook it up. So 3 visits to the dealer and VCDS has paid for itself. So consider getting VCDS for yourself. There's a little bit of a learning curve to it, but it's pretty simple, and they have a great support website on the Rostec page for figuring out how to do different things that you can do with VCDS. So enough about VCDS. This next step is assuming that you have access to it or you own VCDS yourself. We're gonna pop the camera off, go in the car, hook up VCDS, and I'll show you the steps to go in to deactivate the side curtain airbags. Again, disclaimer, this is for doing it on your own car. This is not for doing for customers. To Got to keep the lawyers happy. Okay, here we are sitting in the car. I have VCDS plugged in. The ignition is on, but the engine is off. So here's the steps to go through VCDS. Bear with me while my 1936 Panasonic Toughbook is a little bit slow, but we'll get through it. Okay, from the home screen on VCDS, select control module. So we go to select, give it a few seconds to pull up to the next menu. Here we're going to 15 airbags, button 15, which is the airbag system. And we're watching for it to start communicating here. It's pulled up all the data, so we're good. We're gonna go to 10, which is adaptation. I don't know, hopefully we can read that. Okay. Now from this drop-down menu, we can select the different airbags. We are gonna turn off or disable the side airbags. So we wanna make sure we select the right airbags. When we pull it down here, you can see the airbags are listed. So we'll start with the front passenger side airbag deactivation right here. So we'll select that. Okay, confirm I tapped the right one, front passenger side airbag. It gives you a little cheat menu here just to help you zero the value here. Stored value 0, which means airbag is enabled. We want to change that to a 1. So next to new value here, we'll hit the up button, or you can just type in 1. We can close this just so it's out of the way. Okay, and we'll test. And it'll run a little test, and then the save button gets highlighted. Click save. Are you sure? Yes. All right, then we'll go select the passenger's, or correction, the driver's side. Okay, front driver side airbag deactivation. Highlight that, double checking front driver side airbag, yep. Okay, we're gonna change that value, the new value, to a 1. Close this out of the way. We're gonna test. Save. Are you sure? Yes. And we are done. So we can done and go back. All right, and that deactivates those 2 airbags. So we'll select fault codes. And here to the right, clear codes. Sure, yes. Okay. I have some other codes, but it'll show you here, side airbag disabled, side airbag disabled. So we know those are disabled. Exit back out. And now when we start the car, the airbag light will go out. That's how you do it with VCDS. So hopefully this was helpful for you, help you figure out how you want to deal with those airbags building your Smyth Ute, Jetta or Audi kit. Like I said a bunch of times through the video, there are several different ways to do it. Pick the one that fits you best or that fits your budget or what have you. And I wish you all the best of luck in your builds. If you have a better idea or you have a question, go ahead and put it down in the comments. I get through those every couple of days and we'll try to get you the answers you're looking for. Thanks for watching, take care, and I appreciate any of the likes and subscribes.